अगली वक्ता के रूप में खुशबू कुमारी जी हैं, अंग्रेजी विभाग परास्नातक हैदराबाद विश्वविद्यालय। आपका जो विषय है भारत में अंग्रेजी राज एन अटेम्प्ट टू डिकोड द ब्रिटिश डिप्लोमेसी। मैं आपको सादर आमंत्रित करता हूं अपने विषय पर बात रखें।
Warm good morning to all of you. My title of the paper is Bharat mein Angrezi Raj, an attempt to decode the British diplomacy. My paper discusses a highly controversial book, Bharat mein Angrezi Raj, translated as British Rule in India, proscribed from the late 1920s to trace the idea of diplomacy employed by the Britishers to erase the communal conflict after the 1857 revolt. During the colonial period, many courageous, revolutionary and intellectual freedom fighters risked their lives for spreading awareness among the Indians against the oppressive British rule through their enlightening writings. Consequently, the British rulers became alert and gradually started passing one press act after another on the Indian print, curbing the Indian people's freedom of expression, unlike the condition in England. Through theoretical informed close readings of the primary text and the secondary readings, I have explored the challenges faced by the author in the publication of its whole book and its circulation in colonial India due to the forced legal regulations. The author of the book, Pandit Sundarlal, was a well-known political activist, a journalist and the editor of a weekly magazine, Karma Yogi. His writings made him considered as one of the courageous writers who filled the Indian freedom struggle with intellectual energy and inspiration. This book has provided indomitable inspiration to both the extremists and the moderates. It was claimed to be explosive with its truthfulness and was banned within 4 days of its publication on 18th March 1929 due to its fearless criticism of their rule in India. Pandit Sundarlal went to the court against this ban on his book. His lawyer argued that no fact in that book was untrue and the government lawyer could only say this confessingly, "My lord, that is why it is more dangerous." A considerable amount of works have been devoted to the writings of history of India by both the English and the Indian historians, but those written by the English did not do justice to the real condition of India, while those by Indians revealed their malicious intentions to loot India, as can be witnessed in Marquis Wellesley's own words written to Lady Anne Barnard. "I will heap kingdoms upon kingdoms, victory upon victory, revenue upon revenue. I will accumulate glory and wealth and power until ambition and avarice of my masters shall cry mercy." Now, in order to understand the significance of this book and the difficulties faced by the author in its publication and circulation, it is essential to have a look on the context behind its manifestation along with some facts about the book. British Rule in India, a book of 1,000 pages, studied the history of India with a new lens. His intensive research played a crucial role in rewriting the history of Indian independence, focusing on the British diplomacy's betrayals and hypocrisies. British were quite afraid of the potential of Indian literature in uprooting their rule from India. And Pandit Sundarlal knew that the publication of such a book was not an easy task. He was aware that British will ban it soon after its publication, so he divided it in multiple volumes and got them published in different cities. These volumes were bound together in Prague, and finally it was published on 18th March 1929. The first edition consisted of 2,000 copies, out of which 1,700 copies were made available to the readers within 3 days of its publication. The remaining 300 copies were being sent via post and railway, but the British banned this book on 22nd March and confiscated them. Leaders and newspapers from all over India raised their voice against this ban. Mahatma Gandhi also supported the book in his magazine Young India, advising people to buy and read this book even by breaking the law, and criticized the government's measure as a daylight robbery. Even the Satyagrahis smuggled it inside the jail, and thousands of people read it one page at a time, hiding from the strict surveillance of the jailers. While the book was popularly read amongst the freedom fighters all over the country, Pandit Sundar Lal again wrote a representation to the government of the United Province. The government did not permit it in the first, but the ban on his book was lifted later on 15th November 1937. And in 1960, Government of India brought out the third edition of this book in 2 volumes. The first one is How India Lost Her Freedom, and the second, British Rule in India. Even to this day, its new editions are being published after every 3 or 4 years. Now, the book How India Lost Her Freedom provides insights into the penetration of the subcontinent by the British traders and the subsequent establishment of their dominion. British Rule in India, that is Bharat mein Angrezi Raj, meticulously recounts how the British cunningly secured territories by cultivating friendly relations with Indian rulers, only to betray them through deceptive flattery and dishonorable treaties. Driven by insatiable avarice and an unrelenting hunger for power, these ambitious traders frequently exploited the goodwill and generosity of Indians, after often hatching plots to betray their benefactors for personal gain. The narrative delves into the deliberate dismantling of Indian industries and crafts, alongside the disguised plunder masked as developmental activities. The book enlightens readers about the imposition of British Raj on India, challenging the prevailing historical accounts that were predominantly authored by English historians. As Stephen Spender said, history is theirs whose language is sun, and we all know that the sun never set in the British Empire. So, Pandit Sundar Lal aims to rectify these misconceptions and decolonize Indian perspectives through meticulously researched authenticity. Due to the lack of time, I will just mention a few of them here. For over a century, Holwell's allegation regarding the tragic incident known as the Black Hole of Calcutta had been widely accepted, despite lacking any supporting documentation within the records of the trading company. It has since been revealed that Holwell's account was largely a product of his imagination rather than grounded in the factual evidence. The British authorities attempted to conceal the persistent rumors surrounding the controversial use of fat and lard derived from beef in the greased cartridges of rifles. However, Pandit Sundar Lal's investigation confirmed the authenticity of these rumors, a revelation that he documented in his book. The British, even when at fault and having breached trust, frequently shifted blame onto the Indian populace as a means to deflect attention from their own reprehensible actions. This manipulative tactic aimed to absolve themselves of culpability for their morally questionable deeds. Under the guise of dispensing justice, Indians often faced severe corporal punishments and even death sentences for minor transgressions, while individuals like Warren Hastings managed to secure acquittal despite their involvement in wrongdoings. Additionally, corrupt officers were frequently rewarded with promotions, revealing a stark contrast in the treatment of British officials compared to Indian subjects. The historical narratives propagated by the British have consistently portrayed an idealized English character, ostensibly adhering to what Kipling termed as the white man's burden. However, a close examination unveils a disturbing reality where the same British engaged in warfare, subjected captives to torture, committed acts of rape and murder, and even mutilated women's noses and ears during palace looting expeditions. Unimaginable level of cruelty and inhumanity were directed towards the impoverished manufacturers and workers of the nation, all in the pursuit of advancing the interests of the trading company. The oppressive measures inflicted upon these vulnerable segments of society served primarily to enrich the company at their expense. And the last but not the least, the rulers of England deemed it both a strategic and imperative move driven by their own interests to terminate the dominion of East India Company over the nation after a century-long reign. However, it is important to note that from the perspective of India, this transition merely marked a change in ruling authority. The company's supremacy was supplanted by the ascendance of the British Crown, maintaining a form of external control over the subcontinent. Now, I want to draw your attention towards this things. Despite being well-established facts now, consider the time when this book was first published. It emerged during an era when colonial interests held sway over people's minds, manipulating narratives to suit the colonizers. The book played a pivotal role in catalyzing the freedom struggle against the British by providing a dependable, nationalistic account of India's gradual loss of independence between 1756 and 1858. It effectively countered the prevailing narrative that had been shaped to favor the colonizers and their actions. In conclusion, this exploration unveils a sobering tale of calculated exploitation and subjugation, casting a critical light upon the deliberate erosion of India's vibrant industries and artisanal headways. Beneath the facade of purported development initiatives, a systematic campaign of covert plunder and economic devastation unfolded, orchestrated by ambitious British traders. The historical accounts dissected herein challenge prevailing perception, inviting us to confront the hidden intricacies of a colonial agenda that sought to cripple India's economic autonomy while ostensibly promoting progress. As we reflect upon the past, the lessons gleaned from this book gives a call to vigilance, urging us to remain attuned to the potential manipulation and exploitation of power. By unearthing the layers of disguise and delusion, we empower ourselves to safeguard against the repetition of history's injustices. This exploration stands as a testament to the enduring power of knowledge, casting a transformative light upon the shadows of the past and guiding us towards a more equitable and enlightened future. Thank you.